Hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, it seems like Halloween comes earlier each year, and every time the season comes around, my wife and I like to pick some Universal horror to watch. And this year we decided to focus on Frankenstein. So I thought I would kind of vlog style talk about these Frankenstein movies. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is the first Frankenstein film from 1931. So of course you may watch horror films all year round, and so this year we started a little bit early, like I said, with the Frankenstein movies. This is the box set, and I know there's 4K releases of these. There's in different formats, but this is a Blu-ray set that was released I think a few years back, and you can see the front again. I love the front of these. There's the back that list all the movies as well as the bonus features, and I'll just pull this out again. It has this nice little slipcase here too, and then there is the inside, and there's the back of that one, and all the movies are on individual disc. We were just watching the first one, so it's not in here, but there's the inside. You can see each of the movies has its own disc, which is great. And on this particular set, there are, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies, starting with Frankenstein, and then The Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And the bonus features, which we haven't had a chance to take a look at yet: The Frankenstein Files, How Hollywood Made a Monster documentary, She's Alive, Creating the Bride of Frankenstein documentary, Karloff, The Gentle Monster, Frankenstein Archives, The Bride of Frankenstein Archives, Boo, a short film, Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters, and 4 feature commentaries. So lots of extra features on this one. So the first one we watched is Frankenstein from 1931, starring Boris Karloff, and I just love this screenshot of him here on the back cover of the box set. Really impressed with this movie. It's an hour and 11 minutes. Pretty short in today's world for a film, but I really enjoyed it. Directed by James Whale, and many of the things I enjoyed about it had to do with the scenic elements. So many of the scenes were shot on a soundstage and just very well done. So you think you're in a graveyard, as an example. The castle scenes were amazing, just going up and down the staircase with the various characters. And I have to say, I really had impressions when I first saw the movie, or at least I remembered when I saw Frankenstein years ago, of the creature moving very slowly, and I feel like that was not the case in this viewing. Boris Karloff as Frankenstein, he moves very quickly in many of the scenes. Now, many times Frankenstein's being taunted by characters with fire and other things as they try to control the creature, and there's wrestling scenes with Frankenstein, and I guess I wasn't prepared for that, or I was a little surprised by it. So Boris Karloff as Frankenstein was very impressive in his agility, moving around, doing these various fight scenes, moving through the countryside is another example as well. So I think that's something that really struck me about this particular viewing of the film, is that he was much more agile than what I thought. I really thought Frankenstein moved very slowly with his arms outstretched, and that's just what I thought the creature would do. But the other thing I really liked about the movie is the fact that I don't know that I felt good about this, but I guess I felt sorry for the other part of the movie. The other impression that I got from watching the movie is that I really felt sorry for Frankenstein as a character. He was put together from pieces and parts from a graveyard and an abnormal brain, and so I really felt sorry for him. I felt like as soon as he came to life, and there's of course that famous scene where Dr. Frankenstein says it's alive, and which I'm sure many of you have seen in clips and things like that. But I really felt sorry for the creature, because I felt like as soon as he came to life, he was bullied and taunted, and really just seems like he was mistreated, or at least I felt sorry for the character of Frankenstein as I went through the movie. And the end of the movie seems very final as well. I won't give away the ending, but the end of the movie seems very final, and of course we know we have many more of these movies, to go from the box set. So, but overall, I would say I really enjoyed this viewing. I haven't seen Frankenstein in many, many years, and really enjoyed, especially again, like I mentioned, the performance from Boris Karloff, just a master at this particular character. And I'm excited to watch the other films. So I'm going to do this video in kind of a vlog style where I'm going to watch the movies, hopefully one a day for the next week or so, and then I'll put up this video. So last night I watched The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. I really like this box set also because it lists the years of each of the films on the back. Just some extra details there. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about the movie and my thoughts on it. I really enjoyed it. I really like this one. I think I liked it better than the original Frankenstein movie from 1931. This one was also directed by James Whale. And one of the things I wanted to clarify also from my earlier vlog is that I think I was interchangeably using Dr. Frankenstein and the monster. And it's really, even though the movie is called Frankenstein, it's obviously Dr. Henry Frankenstein, and then he creates a monster. So I may have been using those interchangeably incorrectly in the last vlog, so I wanted to just clarify that. But it is Dr. Henry Frankenstein and the monster. This one also is great because it opens with a little previously on Frankenstein. If you're familiar with watching TV shows, you get a little bit of a synopsis of the first movie, which at this point is 4 years ago, right? So I really, like I mentioned in the last one, and I've kind of taken some notes here. I really love the sets and the shadows. You can tell a lot of this was shot on sound stages, but they really make it look realistic and really interesting to look at all the scenery. So I love the shadows. I love the music. This one to me was a lot more humorous for some reason. There just seemed to be a little bit more humorous parts to it. There is a little bit of a reference to Mary Shelley at the beginning as well, talking about the story and writing the story, at least kind of a fictionalized version of it. But it is interesting to see at the beginning of the movie. This also reminded me of the Halloween franchise. I'm a big fan of Halloween from 1978, John Carpenter's Halloween. And so this one, I'm sure the Halloween franchise was somewhat inspired from these Frankenstein movies, and so you can really sort of see that, especially the end of the movie and how they go into the next one. So that was really cool about it. I really enjoyed the scenes with the monster in the woods, and this movie in particular reminded me of Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein, because there's a scene with an older person in a cabin that the monster comes to, and he's playing the violin. So it just really reminded me of Gene Hackman and Young Frankenstein. So I really enjoyed that part of it as well. And there's a, kind of a quiet scene between the two of those characters, and it goes on a while, which I really enjoyed. So that was really cool. I love also Boris Karloff's expressions as the monster. He really, if you look at his face, he does a lot of great things with his face, even smiling. And in this one also, he's learned a few words, which is also pretty cool. The person that's in the cabin teaches him a few words, which I thought was really interesting. But the scenes in the woods are very entertaining to me anyway. They kind of saved the bride part till the end, the Bride of Frankenstein, to the end of the movie. But it is very iconic. The Bride of Frankenstein has this amazing hair, large hair with a gray streak in it, and so that's very interesting. I also love the part at the end of the movie that shows the flying of kites to get the lightning and all the electronics and the special effects. I mean, for 1935, I really felt like this movie really delivered and was, in my opinion, much better than the first one. This is my favorite, by far. I've only seen 2 of the movies, but this is already number 1 for me. So those are just some quick thoughts about The Bride of Frankenstein. I'm going to continue watching this series here. So tonight I'll be watching The Son of Frankenstein. I think I mentioned in the last vlog that these movies are a little shorter as well. I think last night's movie was a little over an hour. I think The Son of Frankenstein is the longest of these, and it is from 1939. So I'll be talking about that very soon. So last night I watched Son of Frankenstein from 1939, and I did notice on the discs, I know I maybe said this earlier, but I did notice on the discs that the movies are kind of doubled up on the discs now. The original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein had their own disc, but now these are together. So I thought that was interesting. There wasn't a separate disc anymore for those, and I did make a lot of notes about this particular viewing of Son of Frankenstein. I really did enjoy it. It was a little bit longer than the other movies that I've seen so far. This is again, Son of Frankenstein from 1939. A different director, not James Whale, but Roland Lee directed it. And I'll just give you some thoughts and impressions of what I thought about it. After seeing the movie, I think for the first time, I don't think I've seen this one before. But I'm not an expert in Universal horror or Frankenstein films by any means, so I'm just giving you my impressions of what I thought of the movie. And first of all, Bela Lugosi is in the movie as Igor, and I thought he was amazing. He's got a lot of makeup on, but he's in a lot of the movie, and I thought he was really, really good in it. Essentially, in general, and I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but the son of Frankenstein comes back to a town now called Frankenstein, where many of the residents have been traumatized by this monster over the years, and so he comes back on a train and is very apologetic. There's a lot of rain when he comes back also, and the whole town is waiting for him. And so he starts the movie as the son, very apologetic about what happened with the monster. Of course, we don't know the monster is alive at this point. But I really enjoyed that whole plot line. Again, I felt like the movie was a little bit long at 1 hour and 40 minutes. They could have really, as I completed the movie, I realized they probably could have easily shaved probably 20 minutes off the film and it would have been fine. The restoration, to me anyway, looked very dark. Of course, there's a lot of dark scenes. It is in black and white, but I felt like the restoration, or something to have to do with the quality of the movie, was extremely dark, at least in the beginning of it. But I love the sets. I absolutely love that. And the rain and, the shadows, again, it seemed very, very theatrical to me. And I really enjoyed that part of it. At one point in the house, there's a staircase that looks like it almost belongs outside. It's so mysterious. It doesn't even look like it belongs inside the house, but it's very cool the way the filmmaker uses all the shadows and really kind of contrives the environment that these characters are in. There is a lot of setup to kind of start the story again, because again, this is the son of Frankenstein, and so you almost get the sense at the beginning when he comes back to the town that the son of the doctor is almost the monster at this point, right? Because the townspeople come and are very upset with him in the beginning. I was reminded also of Young Frankenstein in this one as well, the Mel Brooks films. The Mel Brooks film. I know I mentioned that in my last vlog, and there's some characters in this movie that remind me very much of Young Frankenstein. Of course, Basil Rathbone plays the son of Frankenstein, and he is probably more well known as Sherlock Holmes, but I thought he was great in this movie. But he has a couple scenes with an inspector that, if you have seen the movie Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks, which was, I believe, from 1974, there's an inspector in that movie who has a fake arm, and this inspector and Gene Wilder have a number of scenes together, but they also play darts together, and so they do the same thing in this movie. So you can tell that Mel Brooks was really pulling from this movie as well as The Bride of Frankenstein for Young Frankenstein. Of course, through these videos, I'm wondering how many times I'm going to say Frankenstein, but I have to keep account of that. The other thing and the dart game is very entertaining. I think the inspector having to move his arm up and down is somewhat comical in some cases, so that's interesting to watch. I'm just looking at my notes here as well. Basil Rathbone as the son of Frankenstein has a son as well, and he is really amazing in the movie. He really adds some humor adds some touching moments, and so I really enjoyed that part of the film. He almost steals the show, or steals the movie in some ways. The other thing that was interesting to see is, as part of the story, Igor has kind of preserved the Frankenstein monster, or the monster, and sometimes they call the monster the creature in this movie as well. So there's a lot of interchangeable words for the monster, but Boris Karloff is back as the monster, and he is sort of in this labyrinth, this cave almost underground, and he's being preserved. He's in a coma. He hasn't really been revived, and so that's part of the story as well. But I thought it was kind of comical again that he's almost throughout the whole movie wearing sort of a sweater, and so not that it's a amusing movie at all, but there are some more comical moments in this film. So I have to say I'm really enjoying this viewing of the Universal Monster Frankenstein movies. Really enjoying it. It's really getting me ready for Halloween. I have to say, I still like Bride of Frankenstein. That's still my top movie at this point after watching 3 of the films. And I would say probably the original Frankenstein is my second favorite, and this one is my third. And I think it's chiefly because of the length of the movie. It just seemed to go on a little bit too long, as much as I enjoy the world that they're in. So that's my take on The Son of Frankenstein from 1939. I'm going to watch another one tonight. Let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite Frankenstein movie. And but again, I'm really having a good time watching these movies. It's really getting me ready and excited for Halloween, the Halloween season. This is only the beginning of August, but I feel like the Halloween season, at least the feeling of Halloween, comes a little bit early every year, and so I'm definitely experiencing that now. So I'll be back again with my review. I think Ghost of Frankenstein is up next. So last night I watched The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942, and as usual I made some notes here. It was directed by Eric C. Kenton, and Lon Chaney Jr. now plays the monster, and Bela Lugosi is back as Igor. And I realized in the last vlog too that I was referring a lot to this movie, Young Frankenstein. This is a Mel Brooks movie, a very funny one from 1974. And I realized as I was talking about these Frankenstein movies that I started to say Frankenstein or Igor, because in the Mel Brooks movie, that's the way they pronounce the names. And so I just thought it was kind of interesting that I was reminded of those movies. And since I seem to be saying Frankenstein a lot because these are the movies I'm talking about. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So Dr. Frankenstein in this movie is played by Cedric Hardwicke. So that's new also. You know what I found, that I really like Boris Karloff as the monster more than Lon Chaney Jr., even though he does a great job at it. I just have a preference there. It seemed like maybe the makeup was a little bit better in 1942. I should say, too, that these are just my impressions of the movie. I'm not an expert in Universal horror or the Frankenstein movies at all, but these are just my impressions when I've seen the movie. Also, I'm trying not to hit too many plot points in case you haven't seen these movies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the plot, but I don't want to give too much away either. And there's not a lot of mystery to these movies, but again, if you haven't seen them, I want to preserve that first viewing for you. So I do like Karloff a lot better than Lon Chaney Jr. Igor is kind of the mastermind, it seems, in these movies, or at least the last couple of movies. Igor played by Bela Lugosi, who I think is probably more famous as Dracula. But he's really good in this role, and he seems to be the mastermind. He carries around a musical instrument that seems to draw the monster out. This is also, I'm finding that these movies very much remind me of John Carpenter's Halloween franchise. So there's a pretty typical ending, a pretty typical resurrection of the monster in these movies, and so that reminded me of the Halloween franchise, if you've seen that. Very, very familiar. In this one, I felt particularly sorry again for the monster. The monster seemed to be doing some good deeds, at least in the beginning of the movie. There's a little bit more action in the beginning of the movie this time, but then it kind of settles down and is maybe less interesting, and there's more quieter scenes without the monster. The music in this one seemed to be much more prominent as well. And again, I'm looking at my notes here. But essentially, in the movie, they decide that the monster needs to be destroyed. The Frankenstein's monster needs to be destroyed, but they decide to give him another brain, maybe to see if they can help his I guess his attitude or his disposition, which doesn't work out too well. But that's the basic premise of the movie. The doctor in the movie is a psychologist and is really the son of the original Dr. Frankenstein. And there is a scene where there's the ghost of the father, which doesn't even look like the same actor at all. So that's kind of my take on the movie. And at this point, I've been through, I've shown this in each of the vlogs, but I'm watching it on this set from Universal Horror, and I've been through 4 of the movies, and I'm really enjoying this. Again, it's really getting me ready for the fall and for Halloween season. And the next one up is Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. So I'll be talking about that one next. That's from 1943. So working through this Frankenstein set, let me just say that Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943 was not one of my favorite ones. I do have to say, I do like how in these Frankenstein movies, at this point, they seem to be expanding what I'm calling the Frankenstein universe by bringing Wolfman into it. But at the same time, as much as I enjoyed seeing the Wolfman and seeing Lon Chaney Jr. Play the Wolfman, and also Bela Lugosi trying to play Frankenstein, I mean, I think he did a pretty good job with it. It was a weaker story, I felt like, but they are working to expand the universe, which is interesting. I know there's a couple movies coming up too, where we have House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and then Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So they're kind of taking the original Frankenstein story and moving it into these other characters. The Wolfman also, I haven't seen all the Wolfman movies, but the Wolfman also seems very tortured because anytime the full moon comes out, something's happening to him where he turns into the Wolfman, but he realizes this is happening. So it kind of reminded me of the Incredible Hulk and the journey that he goes through too, where he understands that this transformation is happening to him, but he's very upset about it. So that's where Wolfman starts to seek out the Frankenstein family, if you will, and is able to uncover the original Frankenstein who's frozen. So again, the story is a little bit weak. I think there's a little bit too much dialogue. I do love the sets. I do love the depth of the sets in many cases, which is really cool. But overall, I would say Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is not one of my favorites, and I'm still going to go back to say at this point, having watched 5 of the films, that Bride of Frankenstein is my favorite still so far. And I just love Boris Karloff as Frankenstein. I think he's the original and the best so far that I've seen. So The Bride of Frankenstein would still be first. Frankenstein would be second. I would say The Ghost of Frankenstein would be third. Son of Frankenstein would be fourth. And Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is at the last spot on my list. So I've got a couple more of these films to go, and we'll talk about those very soon. So I watched the last 3 films on this set all together in the same day, and so I thought I would talk about them all at once. I watched House of Frankenstein from 1944, House of Dracula from 1945, and finally Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from 1948. I will say that House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula were not my favorites, but I did enjoy the fact that the Frankenstein universe, as I've been calling it, has kind of come together with Dracula, the Wolfman. So lots of sort of interwoven stories there. House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula were just a little bit over an hour, and then the last one, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, was over an hour and a half, I believe. So it was pretty easy to watch all 3 together, and it was a great way to sort of end up the set. I will say that in House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula, I enjoyed John Carradine playing Dracula. I was at first when I saw him playing Dracula, I really wasn't used to it because I'm used to Bela Lugosi playing Dracula, who I love. But I really kind of was interested in him and started looking at his work as an actor. He's done so many things. So I really enjoyed that part of it, and also enjoyed, again, the interplay, the interplay between the characters, Wolfman, the fact also that there's usually a doctor involved in the movies of House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula that's trying to help the Wolfman specifically, but others as well, to kind of get through their cursed life. I mean, the Wolfman, every time the full moon comes out, he turns into a Wolfman, right? So there's some, you really feel sorry for the monster characters because they're really going through these transformations. And but I really enjoyed that. You can see also that since Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, or from Frankenstein meets the Wolfman through House of Dracula, they're making a movie every year, where before they were making a movie every few years. So again, really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed going through the set. I will say my favorite out of the three is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I love Abbott and Costello, and I always have since I was a kid. And so it was great to see them with, add some comedy to what have been kind of serious films, and not a lot of comedy in those films too. And many times too, at least in this particular set, there were scenes that maybe could have been removed, or that were more serious, or maybe ancillary to the story. So I really, again, enjoyed this particular set. I'm going to quickly just rank the movies, and we'll say that I really enjoyed, The Bride of Frankenstein is my favorite, so that would be number one for me. And then right after that, Frankenstein from 1931. And I'm going to say my number three is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. It was really entertaining. It was a really great way to end this particular set. And after that, I would say probably Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, and then Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, and House of Dracula. I may have liked House of Dracula a little bit more than House of Frankenstein, but I, again, can highly recommend this particular set. It was just great to see all the movies together. And I'm planning to, during the fall and the Halloween season, I'm planning to watch a few more Frankenstein movies. But let me know if you have a favorite on this particular set. And I'm planning to watch this version of Frankenstein was highly recommended and maybe closer to the story itself. So I'm planning to watch this, and I just picked this up in July at the Arrow sale. So I'm looking forward to watching this. This is at the top of my list for the next one. And then I've got a few others. These are just a couple that I pulled from my collection, but this is a Hammer film. I love Hammer films. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I'm planning to watch this one. And then I think I'm going to watch also The Curse of Frankenstein. This is the 2-disc special edition from Warner Archive, which again, I'm looking forward to watching. This has some extra features on it as well. So let me know if you have a favorite Frankenstein movie from either the Universal Horror set, or if you just have a favorite one in general. Watching these films is getting me really excited for the fall and for Halloween. So, but I'd really love to know your thoughts. This is the first vlog style video that I've made, and or one of the first anyway. And so if you like these videos, let me know in the comments below. Let me know again if you have a favorite Frankenstein movie. And hopefully when I watch a few of these others, I will maybe make another video and talk about them in a little bit more detail. Thanks so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. This has been a fun journey through the Frankenstein films. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe. That would be awesome. I sincerely hope that everyone is safe and well, and I'll talk to you soon.